Ned's Cozy Fireplace was released on November 23rd, 2023 to the 21 Pilots YouTube channel. It has 20 songs consisting of songs from all the way back to self-titled, all the way up to Scaled and Icy. These are essentially lullaby or lo-fi versions of 21 Pilots songs to either help you sleep, help you study, or just help you relax. Today, me and my buddy Nitezz are going to be going over every single song.
Hello, I'm Nitezz, making my debut on the SKR channel to help him rank Ned's Cozy Fireplace. So, Ned's Cozy Fireplace is something that I feel very strongly about. It's one of my favorite 21 Pilots things to listen to, especially since being in college. It helps me focus and lock in on my work, which, by the way, getting some dorm room audio, we love that. But Ned's Cozy Fireplace adds on to a lot of existing 21 Pilots songs, while also making you see them in a new light and transforms them into something which I think is really incredible and they should definitely do more of. So all this starts off with Christmas Saves the Year, which I think is a very strong point to start off for Ned's Cozy Fireplace.
This compilation of songs came out right before Christmas. It's supposed to be something you could put on in the background and you have Ned looking at his cozy fireplace while you're playing these songs. So Christmas Saves the Year is really the perfect way to start off this compilation.
Christmas Saves the Year on this doesn't really add a lot compared to the original track. However, it provides a very warm feeling and good vibes that remind you of the holidays, which is honestly all it has to do. And with that, I think it's a very strong opening to introducing you to the rest of Ned's Cozy Fireplace. I also think it's juxtaposed with the ending track, which we'll get to when we talk about The Outside. But I think going from The Outside back to Christmas Saves the Year is a very good idea and is a great transition.
Like Knight said, there's not really anything in this that really stands out to me or makes me want to listen to this version over and over again or more than the original. I'm glad it exists, but it doesn't really make an impact. Although I am glad that there is more than one version of Christmas Saves the Year now. The second track, though, being Fall Away, is perfect. This recontextualizes the whole vibe of Fall Away, and it really makes me fall in love with the song like I once did. Fall Away has such an interesting beat and progression, and when you hear it here with the strings and the production, that almost feels like it keeps rising and rising and rising this whole time until you get the payoff at the end where all the instruments come together and you get this big crescendo that you don't really get in the original song. I love Fall Away. It's a top 15 21 Pilots song for me, but I honestly might like this version even more.
So I do really like Fall Away on its own as a normal track, but I cannot talk enough about how much I love it on Ned's Cozy Fireplace. The build-up that they make on this is just so incredible. It reminds me a lot of how in Leave the City, it continues to build up until it kind of just drops off, but in this it actually pays off and it gets built up through the entire track and it sounds just beautiful, and then when it all comes together at the end, it is such a beautiful sound that I think complements the original track of Fall Away and is a great addition to Ned's Cozy Fireplace. So next up is Car Radio, which I'm a big fan of Vessel. I love Car Radio. I do think it is definitely one of the weaker parts of Ned's Cozy Fireplace. I tend to enjoy these tracks a lot more whenever Tyler and Josh get a lot more creative with them, like in Fall Away, where there's different sounds and different rhythms and different progressions. Car Radio just sounds like Car Radio, but on piano, which is fine because Car Radio is still a great song, but it just does not hit as hard as the rest of the tracks here, just because it's only that. It's just Car Radio, but on the piano.
There have been times when I've been listening to this album and I know exactly what songs are coming, but I just forget that this is Car Radio because during the verses, it kind of gets lost in the sauce. It doesn't really sound like Car Radio at certain points, and that's kind of what this whole thing is supposed to be. It's supposed to be other versions of the same songs that sound the same but have some different melodies to them, and if I can't even tell what the song is, I think it's a failure. Guns for Hands is next, and it kind of follows the same problems. There's not any point in this where I feel like it's not Guns for Hands and I can't tell what song it is, but it does kind of feel like it's just a piano version of Guns for Hands, like Nitezz was saying, and that's not bad. I know this is a compilation of songs that are supposed to be more calm, But when you have tracks like Fall Away and Christmas Saves the Year that kind of expand on the original and make it sound better and more precise on certain angles, these just kind of feel lacking in comparison.
So next up is Guns for Hands, and Guns for Hands is also one of my favorites on Vessel probably, but it also ranks a little bit lower here just because it really, again, just like Car Radio, doesn't really do much compared to the original track. However, I do love the little bells that play in the background of the piano. I think that's a really great touch, and it just feels like a much more calm version of Guns for Hands compared to how it's usually bombastically played, especially at live shows. So I think that Guns for Hands works in that regard and really does a lot. But I do have to say it also ranks on the lower end. But it really feels like Tyler playing the piano and really using the song in a more calming way, which is different from the original track. So I do have to give it credit, but definitely ranks lower for me still. So Trees is also in a similar situation to Guns for Hands for me, because we're all used to Trees being the grand finale of all the live shows and being a giant, loud, bombastic finale, but it doesn't really do that here. It builds up and gets more loud as it goes along, but Trees still really feels like that it's definitely just on the calmer side, which is kind of becoming a pattern with the Vessel songs on Ned's Cozy Fireplace.
I actually see this as a positive. I love Heathens/Trees. I think it's the best thing from the Psy live stream, and it's one of the best things that 21 Pilots has ever done in their entire career. I love the bombastic Trees. Of course, the original Trees is amazing, and it's this loud ending to all the live shows, like Knight said, but at the same time, Trees is a very emotional song, and putting it in this context with a slower vibe to it will always be welcome, in my opinion. So it ranks a little bit higher for me than for Knight's probably. So we finished the Vessel songs, now we're on to the Blurry Face songs, and this version of Stressed Out might be one of my favorite things from this entire compilation. Stressed Out as a song has a lot of cool changes in it. While it can be very poppy, it has a lot of psychedelic synths in its instrumental, and for that I really go back to Stressed Out more than I do with Ride and Heathens and any of those more popular 21 Pilots songs. Stressed Out isn't my favorite, but it's the one that I go back to the most because of the instrumental. And here, dude, the instrumentation and the strings and the piano and everything coming together to make Stressed Out feel so much more emotional than the original version. Just like, if I'm in the right headspace, this version will make me cry because of how beautiful it is, because of how nostalgic it sounds. In my opinion, the best thing that any alternate version of Stressed Out can do is feel nostalgic. This song is about nostalgia, and if the instrumentation or singing or anything about the song can make me feel like I am looking back on the past, it will get 10 times the amount of love for me. Also, in a lot of these versions, the verses kind of just feel like they're aimless and they don't really follow along to the original track, but in Stressed Out especially, I think it has the best conversion of the verse into an instrumental. And I could glaze this song all day. I love this version of Stressed Out. It's not my favorite version of Stressed Out, but it's one of them. And man, this is peak.
So I'm going to be talking about this probably after SKR absolutely glazes up this version, but I can't lie that Stressed Out's probably one of the best on this. There's just something that seems so tragic, and there's something that seems so tragic in all of this song, where it's like a somber goodbye of some sort, or like a somber realization, especially when the piano keys hit the My Name's Blurry Face and I Care What You Think. It just feels really somber, and I think carries across what Stressed Out's message is really beautifully, and just sounds amazing. I know from SKR it draws tears. It's not exactly on that level for me, but this version of Stressed Out is just so beautiful and really illustrates the message that Tyler wanted to get across when he wrote this song. And it is just a beautiful rendition of it and a great addition to the whole Ned's Cozy Fireplace set list.
If you got stressed out, you gotta have Ride. And Ride, honestly, is one of my least favorite 21 Pilots songs. It has nothing going for it for me. It feels very plain, very stale, very outdated. But this version brings back the love of Ride a little bit. Me not liking Ride that much kind of does really play a factor in how much I like this version as well. I don't really go back to it that much, and I don't really, pay attention when it's on in the whole mix of this whole album, but I do think that it is very well produced, very well made. Everything kind of comes together very well. I think it's better than most of the Vessel ones. I think that more care and time was put into trying to make this sound a little different than just a piano ballad. And I like the build-up. I like, the pre-chorus when it comes in. But other than that, this one's just kind of a little forgettable to me.
So next up is Ride, and my opinion on Ride as a song is that it's really just like the white rice for dinner of 21 Pilots songs, where it's okay. I won't really complain that much when it comes on, but it's just really middle of the road, and it really feels no different here because, of course, the piano sounds nice and everything. It sounds good. It sounds good in all of these, but it just doesn't do anything that different from the original track. And because of that, I just don't really like it that much because I don't really enjoy the original studio version of Ride that much. I mean, the one thing I can say for it is that it sounds like a little bit more mysterious and a little more whimsical, but I don't think it really works for Ride like it does in later songs that I'll talk about. But I don't know, Ride's mid, we know this. So next up is Terror in My Heart, and Terror in My Heart is also one of those Blurryface songs that can be kind of forgettable. And especially in this one, I really don't enjoy it that much. It really just feels, in my opinion, like it's a weaker version of the MTV Unplugged version, especially when everything's stripped back with just the piano and nothing else. It really feels reminiscent of that, but done just a little bit worse. So Tear in My Heart on this is definitely on the lower end, definitely doesn't do much for me. And I really wish there were less Blurryface songs on this and they leaned more into Trench and Scaled and Icy, especially since a lot of those are the best on Nitezz Cozy Fireplace. But for what Tear in My Heart is, you know what you're getting. It's pretty good. It's not the best.
I know that Tear in My Heart is a song for Tyler's wife, and I know that there's a lot of sentiment, and it's the fourth most popular 21 Pilots song somehow, but in my opinion, it's just more Blurryface poppy bullshit, and there's so many other Jenna songs that have more meaning, and that have better lyrics, and that have better instrumentation, and when I listen to any version of Tear in My Heart, I'm kind of sick of it before it even starts. I don't really care about the instrumentation at all. All the instrumentation feels very poppy and generic to me. The only part I really do like is the bridge with the whole potholes thing. But this version, like Knight said, it's kind of just a worse version of the MTV Unplugged one. And I like the MTV Unplugged one, but I think this version maybe could have benefited from having some vocals in it, even though I know that's not what these are supposed to be. Lane Boy is one of my least favorites from this entire session. Lane Boy doesn't even sound like Lane Boy. Like, Car Radio, sure, they had some parts where it didn't sound like the song and the verses didn't really match up. But Lane Boy, it's like the whole song doesn't match up to the original at all. I can never tell that this is Lane Boy when it starts. I can never tell this is Lane Boy at any point during the song. I always have to look at my phone and be like, what song am I on? And for that, it goes to like almost the bottom of the list because it is not Lane Boy.
And my thing about Lane Boy in this is that it doesn't really sound like Lane Boy. I remember whenever Lane Boy comes on, I have to think about which song it is for a second because it really just doesn't sound like Lane Boy, especially with the guitar added on and the piano being not as prevalent as the rest of the tracks. And usually I would say that's a strength that it is this different, but I really think it plays against the track that it sounds so different because it just doesn't really sound like Lane Boy. It just sounds like a generic guitar with a faint piano behind it, and it really isn't that great for me. But, you know, the vibes are still good. The guitar sounds good. It just doesn't feel like Lane Boy. It feels like another song completely.
Goner is a song that I very much dislike on Blurryface. I think the 2012 version is much better. The Blurryface version, very repetitive, The instrumental is almost non-existent. All it does is go do 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 the whole time, and then it explodes into this messy, horribly produced ending that hurts me every time I hear it. And Goner is cool to have in this because it is a slower song, and this whole thing is about calm, slower songs. It just has that beat and instrumentation that I don't really like, but you know, it's not as bad as some of the songs that don't sound like the actual songs.
So next up is Goner, and I am not the biggest fan of Goner as on the studio version, but I feel like in this one, it reminds me more of the sleeper version that was released after Emotional Roadshow, and I feel like this version fits Goner a lot better than the studio version does. I feel like the track they took with a lot of Blurryface songs like Stressed Out and Goner in this, that it feels a lot more somber and a lot more like some sort of like a goodbye, like you're saying goodbye to a friend, or you're stepping away from something, and I feel like this version of Goner definitely fits that. But I also think that because it's based off Goner, it's not too amazing, but I do think this adds a lot more to the original song, and I think that it comes out a lot better because of the changes made here.
Heathens is another song like Stressed Out that I'm going to absolutely glaze because, you know, I like Heathens a lot. It's probably my favorite out of the big three. I love every version of Heathens that they've done, even the Top and Mute Math one that, you know, I don't really enjoy that session that much because I feel like Tyler can't really sing. But this version adds so much eerie, spooky vibes to it that the original doesn't exactly have. Like, the original Heathens is considered to be a Halloween song, I guess maybe because of the Suicide Squad or whatever. But this version feels eerie. It feels creepy. It feels like something is watching you and following you. And the way that the build-up happens and then it drops off into just this gorgeous, insane beat it makes it. This is top 3 for this session for me. I love just listening to this like in the background of whatever I'm doing. It makes me feel epic. Makes me feel like I'm being chased, but in a good way.
So next up is Heathens, and I am admittedly not the biggest fan of Heathens, especially the studio version. But I can't deny that it comes out swinging in Ned's Cozy Fireplace. It really feels like, well, I always think of that Heathens as kind of like a bridge between Blurryface and Trench. And I feel like in this, it really feels like a bridge between the somber pianos that are used heavily in the Blurryface songs and is a great transition to the Trench songs coming afterwards. I really think that this version of Heathens is one of the best. While not topping the Heathens and Trees cover from the live stream version, I think this version is really strong and matches the somber parts of Blurryface and also leads into the more different elements that come later in the Trench songs that come up right after this. But this version of Heathens fucking bangs. It rules. It goes crazy. We love Heathens. So the next song in Ned's Cozy Fireplace is Jumpsuit, and admittedly this is my favorite song of Ned's Cozy Fireplace. So it doesn't do much compared to the original track of Jumpsuit, it doesn't really change much, but the instrumentation and the atmosphere makes all the difference. It really feels like a version of Jumpsuit that would play when Clancy is wandering through Trench right before the music video when he's captured by Blurryface. It really makes you feel the mysteriousness, the vastness of Trench, and it really makes it seem like a giant adventure that Clancy has to conquer, which I think adds a lot to the story and also adds to this as a track. I think the use of the instrumentations, and especially the piano being so light and so mysterious, really adds a lot to this and makes Jumpsuit so great on Ned's Cozy Fireplace. Especially the ending where it's the bridge to the last chorus. It really almost makes me tear up because it makes me feel like Clancy's like on the edge, or like someone's on the edge, and it's like right before a collapse, and it's the final push you need to break through and do something great. And I think that final bit is just so powerful and adds so much. This is my favorite. I love it. It does everything so perfectly, gives Jumpsuit a completely new meaning while also staying true to the original track. It's amazing.
Jumpsuit's version on Ned's Cozy Fireplace makes me want a Bandito version on Ned's Cozy Fireplace. One of Trench's underlying production themes, facts, whatever you want to call it, is that there can't just be a song that's a piano ballad. There has to be some sort of eerie noise in the background, or there has to be something in the production that makes you feel uneasy or not quite right, or it makes you feel like, you know, Tyler was in his basement really working on this album to the fullest he could. He worked on every song up until he felt like they were exactly perfect. And we've never gotten a 21 Pilots album like that beforehand or after Trench. And within this version of Jumpsuit and other versions of Trench songs from Nitezz Cozy Fireplace, you feel that sort of eerie background noise, or that just uneasy, unsettling feeling that you would feel if you were listening to Neon Gravestones or Bandito or Leave the City. And I love how that same vibe was taken from the album itself and put into the album songs that are repurposed on here. And Jumpsuit is probably my favorite example of that. My Blood from Nitezz Cozy Fireplace kind of does the same thing, where you have that eeriness, but you know, it's amped up a little bit. It's a little bit more calming and happy and poppy, like My Blood kind of is. I don't think that this is one of the worst from this session. I don't hate it or anything. I just think that it's pretty mediocre, and compared to something like Fall Away or Stressed Out or Heathens or Jumpsuit, kind of fades in the background, and there's not anything in the production that really stands out to me or makes me want to go back to listen to it on its own if I'm not listening to the entire album, session, compilation, whatever you want to call it.
So next up is My Blood, and it kind of comes down from Jumpsuit for me, because I really don't think this version of My Blood is too amazing, but I do think it does a lot, especially when it comes in with a little bit of synth to add a little bit more on top of the original melody. I think it adds some, but it really doesn't do a lot compared to the original. But I think this is a great rendition of My Blood, especially compared to the other stuff that came out. Not the other stuff that came out. The other songs earlier in Blurry Face. I also think the build-up is also really good, especially with all the little instrumentations coming together. And I love that they strip back the Stay With Me, You Don't Need to Run with almost nothing in the background. I think that's really good. So it probably ranks like upper tiers for me, definitely. They definitely knocked it out of the park with the Trench songs.
Chlorine, again, another one of these songs that has incredible build-up. I think that the instrumentation from the original Chlorine in the studio version, with that little doo-doo-doo-doo piano in the background, really elevates this version to a whole other level. Not to a way that it's better than the original, just to kind of say that I don't think this version would be as good if that piano melody in the background wasn't there. I think that it kind of takes that piano from the studio version and kind of expands upon it. It makes that the entire song. It all sounds beautiful like that. And I think that this, a lot like Fall Away, has that build-up where it just keeps building and building and building until you get that crescendo. I'm a little sad it's not 5 minutes like the original version, but at least Chlorine was included on this, considering it is the most popular Trench song and the only Trench song in their top 10.
So next up is Chlorine, and I think Chlorine is also very strong in Nitezz Cozy Fireplace. I think it's very similar in my mind to what Stressed Out and Goner do, where it makes it a lot more somber, which I think really works for Chlorine, because it feels like it should be treated in that way. I think that Chlorine works the best when it's more stripped down and more somber. I remember seeing a clip of Tyler singing it completely stripped back at some event. I can't remember which one, but it really hits home what Chlorine really should feel like. And even though I'm not the biggest fan of the studio version, I think that Chlorine is a song that can be utilized in a lot of different ways. Just make it a beautiful, beautiful melody with the beautiful voiceovers. And while there's no voice here, I think that the slight piano that they use, along with the little xylophone hits, are just really gorgeous and really add a lot. So next up is The Hype, and I also don't think The Hype is too incredible, but I do enjoy the strings in the background that they use it in. I think whenever Tyler and Josh use strings in their stuff, it usually absolutely hits insanely. And while this isn't my favorite implementation of strings, I do think that this version of The Hype is very hopeful in what it's trying to get across, especially because it's getting to the end of Trench. I think that they wanted to just take a detour and try something different. which is good. I think that this is a very serviceable version of the hype and does definitely add a lot to the original track and is a great addition.
This whole session album, whatever, was made to be sort of a Christmas thing, right? And out of all the songs besides Christmas Age of the Year, I think the hype sounds the most like a Christmas song, especially during the I don't know which way I'm going, but I can hear my way around parts. While some of the other songs here can feel more somber in their tone, this one still has that vibe that the hype has, where it feels very happy. It feels like one of those songs that tells you, like, keep moving forward, keep pushing along. If life can be this good, maybe we can keep going. And I think that fits the sentiment of the song really well, because it's basically Tyler talking to his past self, telling him, don't believe the hype, don't get an ego, chill out. Nico and the Niners brings you back to that eerie sort of vibe that the Trench songs have. I'm not sure if any of you went to the Icy tour or the Takeover tour, but there was a little campfire section where songs were done acoustically, and Nico and the Niners was one of them. It was done on the ukulele and on a little bongo drum thing, and I think that is a lot like this version, where it feels somber and nice in its tone, but at the same time you have a little bit of these, unsettling vibes to it. And I love this. I think that there should be more Trench songs on here, and Nico being the last one is messed up, but it's very good, and this is one that I do go back to a lot.
So Nico and the Niners is the next up, and this is one that I originally was not a fan of, but after spending more time with, I definitely love it. I love the fake guitar and the fake piano. When I think of this, it makes me feel like you're sitting around a campfire at night telling the story of the bishops, and I think that's a really great image that captures in this song, especially since Nico and the Niners is the last one before we transition to the Scaled and Icy songs. But I really think that this version of Nico and the Niners is really great. It reminds me of a camping trip, being around the fire and telling scary stories and just telling stories in general. So I think this is a great addition to the track, great addition to Nitezz Cozy Fireplace.
Level of Concern is cool. I like it. I think it sounds pretty good here. There's nothing too interesting it does. It kind of fades in the background. But the thing about it that pisses me off is that it takes up a spot instead of a Trench song or a Scaled and Icy song. There are only 3 Scaled and Icy songs here, and there are only 4 Trench songs in here. Meanwhile, Blurry Face gets so many, and it gets the last track on its album for some reason. So rather than talking about Level of Concern, I'm going to talk about how it's just used as a transition. Like, it's stupid. I'd much rather have something like Choker on here, or Mulberry Street, or Leave the City, or Cut My Lip, or something else.
So Level of Concern is one I really don't have a lot to say about. It really just feels like it was just here as a transition to the Scaled and Icy songs. It really is no different. It's just a piano version of Level of Concern. I'm not the biggest fan of the Level of Concern studio version, so I really don't think this is that amazing. But, it's a good piano ballad, I guess. It adds something, somewhat. It's something I can listen to. I'll never skip it, probably because it's not worth the effort to skip it. But it's, in my opinion, one of the weakest on Nitezz Cozy Fireplace for sure.
I talked about it with Car Radio, I talked about it with Lame Boy, but Shy Away is the worst offender out of all 3 of them. It does not sound like Shy Away whatsoever at all. It doesn't even sound close to it. I can't even tell what the instruments are trying to do, which part of the song it's trying to do. Shy Away is a great song. It has a new wave 80s poppy synth feel to it. And when you put it in this slower ballad version, it's beautiful. On the MTV Unplugged version, it's beautiful. On the Clancy World Tour version, it's beautiful. I'd argue that both of those versions are better than the original. But when you put it here, and you try to make it calm and relaxing, I don't understand why it doesn't even sound like the original song at all. It almost feels like it was a mandatory thing that you had to put on here because it was the first single from Scaled and Icy, rather than them being passionate about doing a different version of Shy Away like this. And I much rather would have had Good Day or Choker as the first one instead.
So next up is Shy Away. And again, I don't think Shy Away is really adding that much. I also used to struggle to figure out which song this was when I would first listen to Nitezz Cozy Fireplace, but I do think that Shy Away does do something more. I like the faint drum beats in the background. I like that it's the more somber version of Shy Away. I do enjoy those a lot more, especially like the MTV Unplugged version. I just think this is probably one of the most mid additions to Ned's Cozy Fireplace for sure.
Saturday, man. Saturday, no matter what version it is, has this groove to it. It has this insane vibe to make you want to get up and dance. And when you have all these calm songs or all these eerie sounding songs, and then you have Saturday here, it just really makes you feel like there should be more dancey, upbeat, sort of calming vibes in Ned's Cozy Fireplace. And that's why I wish we had more Scaled and Icy songs, because I feel like something like Mulberry Street or Bounce Man would fit really, really well here. But Saturday, man, it's one of those where the build-up goes crazy. It makes me feel emotional, but also gives the insane vibes that Saturday always gives off. And the chorus here, like, I love the chorus in the original song. I feel like it's very catchy, but it's almost more catchy in the instrumentation here rather than when Tyler sings it. And honestly, this might be my favorite version of Saturday. I love it so much. I go back to it even when I'm not listening to this thing in full. I'll just listen to this on its own.
Boy, oh my god, I fucking love Saturday, and I love Saturday especially on Ned's Cozy Fireplace. So a lot of people will criticize Saturday, but I really feel like this version is so great. Whenever I think of this version of Saturday, I think of you're at a party, you're at a function with your friends, like things are starting to wind down a little bit, and you're just like chilling, having a great night, and that's what I really feel like this version of Saturday gets across, compared to the hyped up, like a party 80s inspired studio version. Especially this really feels like a different version that would take place after that, and I think that's really great. I love Saturday. I love how they implement the lyrics into the song with the instrumentation. It's just a beautiful way to almost close out. They have a much better closer, so I'm glad it didn't close with Saturday, but I think Saturday is a great way to be the second to last track on Ned's Cozy Fireplace. It's amazing. I love Saturday. You all love Saturday. You better fucking love Saturday. But this is a beautiful track.
The Outside does so much. It was used in the I Am Clancy video because it does so much. This is probably the song out of all of them that takes the most liberties. There's this bridge section in this version that doesn't even exist in the real song, but the way that it goes just makes you feel majestic. It makes you feel like you're part of this big story that we've been following for so long, and it's about to hit its peak and it's ending, and the beginning of the end is about to start. And The Outside is such a fun song in its own right. It's one of the most fun 21 Pilots songs to sing, to listen to drum along to do anything to. And putting it in this context where it feels a little bit more emotional, it feels a little bit more serious, it just makes me want to inject this song into my veins and like tattoo I Love the Outside on my forehead, or I Love the Outside Ned's Cozy Fireplace version on my forehead. That's how good this is. I will not stop glazing The Outside as a song, no matter what version it is. It's a crime that we haven't gotten more versions of The Outside.
So last but not least is probably the most well-known, which is The Outside. And this version of The Outside is probably most well-known for being in the I Am Clancy video. And I think that was an absolutely amazing choice, and is definitely one of the best tracks on Ned's Cozy Fireplace. It really feels like it's the music for capping off an adventure, which I think is perfect for what it's getting across. This song is all about... Not the song. This track definitely feels like it's about capping off a journey and going to the next chapter, and it's very mysterious, and the way it builds up to that final climax where everything is going full blast is just amazing. I love this version of The Outside so much. I love how it goes from mysterious to full out, I love how it goes from mysterious to all out. I think that's a great way to build it up, and is similar to the Fall Away tracks, where I think the build up is just really, really well done and fits this song perfectly. It's hard not to think of the I Am Clancy video when I think about it, but I always think that this is a great way to end it, and it's just beautiful and fantastic. So now we get to the ranking. When it comes to the last places, my bottom would definitely be, out of the 20, Ride, Car Radio, and Shy Away at the bottom, because I really don't feel like they add much and are really just their original songs. After that, I would put Tear in My Heart, Guns for Hands, and Level of Concern above that, who do a little bit more and I like a bit more. And then after that, I would put Lane Boy and Trees for the same reasons, and then Christmas Saves the Year above that. And as we get into the top 10, these are the ones that really change stuff and really make something special. But before that, there is Goner at 11th, which I think is a lot better than the studio version. Starting with the top 10 is Nico and The Niners, which is just a great, great way to alter the song, and I think is beautiful. And above that is The Hype. I think The Hype's also really, really good with the strings they add in. With Heathens coming in above that in 8th. 7th with Chlorine. 6th with My Blood. 5th with Saturday. 4th with The Outside. 3rd was Stressed Out. 2nd, Fall Away. And 1st, Jumpsuit.
Now I will rank Ned's Cozy Fireplace. 20th, Shy Away. 19th, Car Radio. 18th, Goner. 17th, Tear My Heart. 16th, My Blood. 15th, Ride. 14th, Lane Boy. 13th, Level of Concern. 12th, Guns for Hands. 11th, The Hype. 10th, Jumpsuit. 9th, Nico and The Niners. 8th, Trees. 7th, Chlorine. 6th, Christmas Saves the Year. 5th, Saturday. 4th, Heathens. 3rd, Fall Away. 2nd, The Outside. And 1st, Stressed Out. I pretty much like all of these, but Shy Away. Don't really like Shy Away.
Ned's Cozy Fireplace is one of my favorite additions to the 21 Pilots catalog, and I'm so grateful that Tyler, Josh, and the rest of the team made this happen. And I want to thank SKR for letting me collab on this video. It was a lot of fun to go back and revisit all these tracks, and I hope to be on another one soon.
Thank you to Knights for being here. I hope you could be in another video. You and I have a lot of the same opinions, and I just really appreciate that you wanted to be in this and give your 2 cents. You know, I think you're a lot better at saying your opinion on these songs than I am. I feel like you've listened to them more than I have. I only listen to them situationally, and it's just really nice to have someone else's opinion to expand upon what I think, because obviously we have different opinions. So thank you for being here. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you in the next one.
Also, you guys should listen to Snapback. It's a good song.
Ooh, I've been praying for my elasticity to return to the way that it was. If I'm gonna snap next, then I gotta snap back. I've been praying for my elasticity to return to the way that it was. If I'm gonna snap next, then I'm gonna run out of breath.